What is up, everybody? Gonna get straight into it. Obviously, with the World Cup being hosted in the U.S., Mexico, and Canada, I, as an American, am starting to really feel the World Cup fever. I was lucky enough to go and watch Senegal play the United States in Charlotte, North Carolina. The U.S. managed to win 3-2, and I originally made one of these videos and recorded a bracket challenge maybe 3 or 4 days ago, but since watching that game and since sort of diving into more of the World Cup fever and really understanding what the teams were working with, I decided I wanted to film this again. So this will be my honest attempt to try and predict what's going to happen in the World Cup. Obviously, walk everybody through the group stage, who I think is going to top each group, what factors might be at play, knockout stages, so on and so forth. At the end, I'll talk about who I think will be, some key players to watch, and we'll see how genius or how foolish I look, 2 months from now when the tournament's over, when the World Cup final happens in New York City. So, let's get into it. So, for Group A, we've got Mexico, South Africa, Korea, and the Czech Republic. I think Mexico has a huge advantage by getting to play in their home stadium for all three group stages, for all 3 games. And so their first game against South Africa, I think they're going to win pretty easily and be able to carry that momentum. So I'm going to pick Mexico to top the group. I think Korea is a really, really strong side. Obviously, Heung-min Son's getting a little bit older, but still I think the way that he is able to kind of galvanize our team could be really useful. So for me, it's between them and the Czech Republic in terms of who I think is going to get second, but I'm going to give Korea the slight edge. Czech Republic will be third, and South Africa will be fourth, but I would love to be surprised. Group B, I think Switzerland to me is pretty clearly the best team, but I'm quite confident in Canada. Again, similar thing, home team advantage. All 3 games are going to be played in Canada in the group stage, so I think they'll be the second best team in this group. Bosnia third, although Bosnia and Canada, in my mind, could be switched pretty easily, and then Qatar will be fourth. I think in Group C, Brazil is going to be the strongest side, but Morocco will be a close second. I don't think Morocco's as strong as they were in the last tournament where they made it all the way to the semi, but I'm going to pick Morocco for second. I'm going to go with Scotland third, and then Haiti last in the group. Group D, the United States. I believe Turkey is pretty clearly the strongest side, in my opinion. I think a lot of people are overhyping how good the U.S. team is. Although when I did watch them play against Senegal, I was really impressed with how intense they pressed, how well they managed to keep the ball moving around. But I also think that Senegal is the sort of thing where the United States is going to have a lot of energy because they're playing at home and want to show the home crowd like a good performance and lead up to the World Cup. Whereas to be honest, I think Senegal could not have cared less about that game they played against the U.S. So I don't really think that it's indicative of what we'll see during the tournament. So with that said, I'm going to pick Turkey to be the top of the group. The United States will be second, I think. I think people are sleeping on Paraguay and Australia. With that, I do still stick by the fact that I think Turkey and the United States will be 1-2, but I still think this will be a more difficult group than I think a lot of Americans are willing to admit. With that said, Turkey first, the United States second. I think Paraguay will be third, but that'll be a really important game that we play on June 12th, I think. It'll be really important for the United States to get off a good start. If that happens, then I can see us doing quite well in the group stage at least, but yeah, we'll kind of see what happens. Group E, Germany, despite the fact they're probably not as strong as they have been in previous years, going to top this group, no problem. I think I'm going to go with the Ivory Coast to be second, Ecuador third, Curacao fourth. Although, I will admit I don't know that much about Curacao in terms of how they play and their style of play. First time in the World Cup, obviously, but I'd love to be proven wrong, but I just have a hard time seeing them do that much in this group. Group F, I think this one's a little bit harder to predict than most people think. I'm pretty confident that Tunisia will be the bottom of the group. I watched Austria play against Tunisia the other day, not in person, but online. And even with 10 men, Austria was still very dominant in the way they kept possession. Tunisia had some creative flair, but still, a 10-man Austria was pretty dominant against them, I think securing a 1-0 victory. So I think Tunisia will be fourth. Sweden got pretty handily beat by Norway the other day. And so I thought Sweden was going to be a little bit of a stronger side, but now I'm not too sure. But with that said, I think Netherlands and Japan will be fighting for the top of this group. But I'm going to give the slight edge to the Netherlands, although I think Japan are a really strong side, and I'm really excited to watch them play. So I'm going to go Netherlands first, Japan second, Sweden in third, Tunisia in a pretty comfortable fourth. But I could be very wrong. I could very easily see Japan topping this group. But I think Netherlands, just their overall quality, a lot of the players they have, I think they'll have the slight edge. But again, Japan is an incredible unit. They play really well, and I think that's going to be a huge theme throughout this tournament. Not just with Japan, but a few of the other teams I'm going to talk about. Group G, Belgium, easily the best team. And I think Iran, at this point, has a slight edge over Egypt. I think Mo Salah, despite his individual brilliance, I think he's not the same as 2018 or 2022 Mo Salah. So I'm going to have Iran be second, Egypt in third. I'd love to be surprised by New Zealand, but at this point, I don't don't know too much about the team, and I can't really see them having that much quality. Group H, we've got Spain, Cape Verde, Saudi Arabia, and Uruguay. I think Spain are going to be one of the best teams in this tournament, and that's going to reflect in some of the later things that I predict. So I think Spain's going to easily top this group. The rest of this is a little bit hard to predict. I'm going to give Saudi Arabia the edge for second, Uruguay third. I just don't think Uruguay has the same quality as they used to, even at the last World Cup where they crashed out of the group stage. So don't really see how Uruguay is going to be as strong of a threat as they've been in the past, and I'm going to go Cabo Verde fourth. Group I, France, again, I think France is another really strong team in this tournament. I think they're going to be one of the best teams in the tournament as well. And I'm going to go France first. To me, it's between Senegal and Norway. Although Norway has some really amazing firepower up front, I do think Senegal overall is just a better team. So I'm going to pick Senegal second, Norway third, Iraq fourth. Although, again, I could see Senegal and Norway switching, but I'm going to go with that. Group J, I think Argentina is going to dominate this group. Let's just get it out of the way. I think Austria is a really good side. A lot of their players play in the Bundesliga. Ralf Rangnick, I think, is a fantastic coach. And so, again, I think Austria is going to be a really solid team. I think the individual quality, or their lack of, individual quality compared to, a France or a Germany, just kind of holds them back a little bit. I think, again, they play as a great unit. David Alaba is an incredible player, but overall, I just don't think they have the talent that's going to take them that far in this tournament. But I do think they'll be second in this group. Algeria third, Jordan fourth. Group K, I think Portugal with their midfield is going to absolutely dominate this group and play really well in this tournament. So I'm going to go with Portugal at the top. And then it's a little bit hard to say. I think Uzbekistan will be at the bottom of this group. So I'm going to go Colombia second, DR Congo for third, Uzbekistan fourth. Watching Uzbekistan play against Canada the other day, Canada did not play very well, yet still 1-2-0. Uzbekistan moved the ball decently well, have Fabio Cannavaro as their head coach now. Pose some threat against Canada, but overall, I just don't think they have enough talent or final product to do that much in this tournament. I would love to be wrong. Hopefully, I'm not being disrespectful with my predictions, but that's what I'm going to go with. And Group L, we've got England, Croatia, Ghana, and Panama. Panama is going to be bottom of this group, if I'm being frank. I think it's going to be England at the top, Croatia second, Ghana third, Panama fourth. Don't have much more to say beyond that. I think Thomas Tuchel. There's a reason why Thomas Tuchel is getting paid the big bucks to be the England manager. A lot of people have been making a lot of fuss about their team selection, about the 26 people that they're bringing. But I think Thomas Tuchel knows exactly what he's doing. He's a great coach. And so I think they'll top this group. Croatia, everybody sleeps on Croatia. Croatia always do a lot better than people think. Nobody thought they'd make the final in 2018. No one thought they'd make it that far in 2022. I think they'll make it a lot farther than people. They'll be a lot better of a team than people might have suggested in the past, or might be suggesting. But they played Belgium, I think today on June 2nd. They played Belgium today and lost 1-0, which was not great. But I just think somehow Croatia is a team that can adapt. There'll be people that are going to figure it out. They'll figure it out when the time matters, is my fundamental belief. But still, I think they'll get second, enough to advance, and then we'll go from there. Okay, so now I got to pick the 8 best third-place teams. And I find this system a little bit flawed in that I feel like it's somewhat arbitrary, the 8 out of the 12 teams you pick. How you really determine that, it's like the way that points are distributed in a group doesn't really. I don't think that advancing 8 out of 12 teams based off of the most points or whatever makes that much sense. But you just got to pick. So this is not really. I don't really think this reflects that much, but how much I know about the sport. It's just I think I get lucky, to be honest. But for the sake of it, I'm just gonna pick who I think the 8 best teams are out of this group. Now let me just go who I think is number 1. I think, to me, it's between the Czech Republic and Norway. I think the Czech Republic are a really strong side, actually. And they have some great talent up front. Patrick Schick's a great player. Susek from West Ham, although they just got relegated. So I think they have some decent players, and so I think Czechia is going to be a strong third-place team here. I think Ghana is going to be a strong team as well. Algeria, Uruguay. Sweden, I think, will make it through. And then I'm going to go with Scotland. Ecuador. I'm decided between Ecuador and Egypt. I'm going to go with Ecuador, and then I'm going to go with Egypt. Oh, never mind. That's 8 out of 8. So I think the 4 teams that won't make it will be Egypt, Paraguay, DR Congo, and Bosnia. So now we go to the fun part of this, where we get to try and predict what's going to happen in the bracket. In Boston, Germany are going to play Scotland on June 29th, and I think Germany's going to win that pretty easily. France, Sweden. France, I think, again, France is the best team in the tournament. one of the best teams in the tournament, excuse me. Korea, Canada. I think if it was in a neutral stadium, I'd have a little bit harder time suggesting or picking who's going to win. But I believe Canada, despite the fact they're not playing Canada, will have the slight edge over Korea. Maybe that's my heart speaking because I was born in Montreal. But Netherlands, Morocco. Again, if you asked me this in 2022, I'd have a harder time answering. But I think Netherlands are going to be a better team. Colombia, Croatia. I'm going to go with Croatia for that game. Spain, Austria. Same thing. Spain. Turkey, Ecuador. I think Turkey are a really strong side. I mean, players like Arda Güler and the run they made it to the quarterfinals and gave the Netherlands a really hard time in the Euros. And so 2 years later, I think they'll have an even better team. So I think they could do really well. Turkey against Ecuador. I'm going to go with Turkey. Belgium, Czech Republic. I'm going to go with Belgium there. Brazil, Japan. This is where I think it's really interesting, and I think it's going to be a little bit of a controversial pick. If I'm a fan of Brazil, I'm very worried about the dynamic of the team, about players like Vinicius. Where's Neymar going to fit into that? Are all of those polemics going to become a distraction? Are people going to be more concerned about whether or not Neymar is going to make an appearance than how the team is actually playing? If Brazil can't figure those things out, then I don't know how. I'm sure they can go and play. They played Panama the other night. I'm sure you can win that game 6-2. But when you come up against a strong side like Japan, if you're not really solid and ready to play, I think you'll be exposed. And my prediction is that is what's going to happen here. Côte d'Ivoire against Senegal. I think Senegal is a really strong team. Just won the African Cup of Nations. So I'm going to go with Senegal there. Mexico, Uruguay. In Mexico City, knockout stage, I think the Mexican people are going to really galvanize their team. And I think Mexico's going to get the win here. And I can't wait to see it. England against Norway. I think England's going to have too much quality for a lot of Norwegian players who also play in the Premier League. But I think that England will have a solution to deal with Erling Haaland and Martin Odegaard. Argentina and Saudi Arabia. This is a really interesting one, given that in the last World Cup, Saudi Arabia beat Argentina in the group stage, but I think Argentina ultimately, in Miami, where Lionel Messi plays, they'll have too much for Saudi Arabia. United States, Iran, I'm just going to say the United States, not much more than that. Although, if I'm being completely honest, I would love to see Iran win this game, but at home in Dallas, I think the United States are going to have the edge over Iran. Switzerland against Algeria. Going to go with Switzerland. So Switzerland's are a really good team. Again, similar thing to Japan. I think they know how to show up and play as a team at international tournaments. And that is something, barely losing to England in the last tournament. When it matters, they really know how to play well as a team. They might not always win, but they'll always play really, really well. So I'm going to give Switzerland the edge here. Portugal against Ghana. Ghana have given Portugal problems in the past, but I think this time around, especially once if and when they can figure out the dynamic with Cristiano Ronaldo and make sure he doesn't overshadow everyone else and all the great things and players that Portugal has, given some of the stuff that the Portuguese core at PSG was able to do, I think it's going to be a really, really strong team, win this game quite easily. So now we head into the round of 16. Germany against France. I think this is going to be a really, really fun game to watch. I think ultimately, if I'm wrong and Germany manages to win this game, I think that's a really, really good sign for the rest of the tournament. If they can beat a team as good as France, then they can beat anybody, in my opinion. But I don't think that's what's going to happen. I think France is going to win. I think they have too much talent, and they'll win this game. Canada against the Netherlands. I think this is where the dream for us Canada fans ends. The Netherlands are going to beat Canada, I think, probably pretty easily. Spain, Croatia. Again, Spain. I think they're one of the two best teams in the tournament. Spain's going to win this game. Turkey against Belgium. In Seattle, so it's going to be probably a little bit cooler, not going to be ridiculously hot, as opposed to like a place like Dallas. So that kind of neutralizes things, in my opinion. And so I think that's where a team like Belgium, when they can actually play and they're not so worried about the tempo, I think in an out-and-out game of quality, who has more talent, who is a better team, I think Belgium's going to win. Japan against Senegal, again, two really strong teams. But I think ultimately, Japan is going to make a run this tournament. And so I think it's here that they beat Senegal, make it to the quarterfinals in the World Cup. I'm excited to see it. Mexico, England. In Mexico City, it's going to be really hot. Mexico fans are really, really going to show up for this game. But I still believe that England is going to have too much quality for Mexico and ultimately make it to the quarterfinal. Argentina, United States. Again, same thing. I think the United States is going to be really excited. We're going to show up for this game. Fans are going to come out. It's going to be really, really exciting, probably for the first 20, 30 minutes, even for the first half. But I think ultimately Argentina's quality is going to be too much. They're going to win this game. Switzerland, Portugal. Portugal's going to win this game. Not much more to it. It's where the run ends for Switzerland. I think, again, to me, the four best teams, as we'll see, the four best teams in this tournament are, I guess I'm about to decide that. But quarterfinal, France, Netherlands. France is going to win this game. I think France has everything and more like everything that the Netherlands could come out with, France has more of it. France has more quality. France has a lot of players who are physically gifted. You know, Virgil van Dijk is getting pretty old now, just signed for Inter Miami. They're just not the same Netherlands that they were even at the last turn at the Euros, and so or the last World Cup. I think it's this very similar Dutch core, but I just don't think they'll have enough to beat France. Spain, Belgium, Spain. Not much more to it. Again, I think Spain's one of the best teams in this tournament. Japan, England. I believe this is where the run ends for Japan. Although Japan did beat England in a friendly, maybe a few months ago, I still believe that England are the best team in this tournament. Best team in this matchup. So I'm going to pick them. Argentina, Portugal. It's hard for me to say, but ultimately I do believe that people are really sleeping on Argentina for one. Argentina's going to win this game. I think the betting odds will say that Argentina and Portugal are pretty similarly slated in terms of how far they're going to the tournament. But ultimately, Argentina has a very, very similar core of players. I still think Messi is going to play a huge role for Argentina. I still think Messi, if I'm honest, is a top 15 player in the world, still at 38 years old or however old he is. And their core is still very similar. I think they're going to get behind their team, and I still think that Argentina is going to beat Portugal in this game. Now, 2 semifinals. France, Spain. My ultimate prediction here is that I think whoever wins this game or is the winner of this side of the bracket will be the winner of this tournament. And I've ever since the last Euros, I've been saying that I think Spain is going to win the World Cup. So I want to stick through with that prediction. I think Spain, just with the quality that they have, Lamine Yamal, I think they'll carry the momentum. They're an incredible team. I love the way that Spain plays. I'm super excited to watch them. It's how the game should be played, tiki-taka, pass and move, all of it. It's just so beautiful to watch. I think ultimately, again, Spain has everything. Spain has the best talent in the world and also the best play style and best cohesiveness as a unit. There's not as many egos that exist in the French team, for example, and that I think ultimately hold them back. Yes, Mbappe is going to show up for France. I have no doubt about that. But ultimately, the way that Spain play and their cohesiveness as a unit will, in my opinion, let them prevail over France. And England-Argentina, classic matchup. I think we'll see a similarly interesting game. And ultimately, I'm going to pick... ultimately, I believe that this is where things end for Argentina. I think, as we've seen over the last, 15, 20 years, 16, 20 years or whatever, last 4 or 5 World Cups, it is really hard to come into a tournament as a defending champion and do well. There's somewhat of a curse. Apart from France making it to the final in 2022 while being defending champions, it is really hard for whatever reason for defending champions to do well in the World Cup after. And so even for Argentina to make it as far as the semifinal will be a big achievement. And I think Argentina's team is going to be a little bit worse this year, perhaps, without Di Maria with an older Messi. But I still think they'll make it far, but not quite far enough. And so I think England will make it to the World Cup final in New York on July 19th, where, as I've sort of alluded to already, I believe Spain will come out victorious. With that, given the fact that Spain, I believe, will be the champions of the World Cup, I think I just kind of want to give a few other insights or a few other predictions in terms of who I think are going to be major players for during the World Cup. I think someone to look out for who could potentially win the Young Player of the Tournament, apart from Lamine Yamal, because that's the obvious pick, best player on Spain. I think Lamine Yamal might win the Golden Ball just for best player. I think best young player might be Nico Paz from Argentina. He's somebody who's going to have to come in and replace some of the attacking talent that Argentina have lost, such as Angel Di Maria from the last tournament. He's had a great season for Como. He's really dynamic. He's a really creative player. Really enjoy watching his highlights. He's a really creative, dynamic player, and he'll have to provide some solutions for Argentina. And I think he's somebody to be really aware of as they advance and as they develop in the tournament. One thing that I want to point out about Argentina is that, especially if you look at the last World Cup, the way that they lined up in the first game against Saudi Arabia versus the way that they lined up against France in the final were 2 very different lineups. Scaloni was not afraid to make adjustments to let some of the younger players, to let some of the guys who are on the bench become key players, like McAllister and Enzo Fernandez, guys who Enzo didn't even make an appearance to the second game against Mexico, if I remember correctly, and then ended up becoming a huge player for Argentina and ultimately making a huge move to Chelsea after. And so I think Argentina's ability to adapt. Scaloni is an incredible manager, in my opinion. So his ability to adapt will really shine through, I believe, and I think that will allow for players like Nico Paz to find opportunities, to find moments, and ultimately for him to really showcase what he's capable of. I know he already has a lot of attention on him because of the way he's been playing for Como, but I think that's only going to continue and raise his stock during this tournament. In terms of top scorer, I believe I believe that we're going to see Mbappe score a lot of goals. I think that's sort of inevitable. Some of the games that they're going to play, I could very easily see him scoring, 5 or 6 goals in the group stage, and also be important for them in the knockout stages as well. And so, I'm going to slate Mbappe to be the top scorer of the tournament. In terms of the Golden Glove, I think ultimately you give the Golden Glove to a goalkeeper who is really important in terms of having to make a lot of saves. I think Unai Simon, for Spain, is an incredible goalkeeper in terms of his capacity to play with his feet, his distribution. Spain's sort of idea of football is really important for that, but I don't think that necessarily warrants a Golden Glove in the eye of sort of the awards people. And so a keeper who's going to make a lot of saves and do it at a high level will be Jordan Pickford, in my opinion, especially if England make it all the way to the final, like I've said that they will. And so, yeah, those are my main picks. Obviously, we'll see if I'm correct or not. I can't wait to look back on this video a few months from now once the tournament's over, but yeah, those are sort of my initial thoughts and my predictions. Like I've said, I think we'll see an interesting tournament for all the hosts, Spain, Mexico, and the United States. I think they'll all have the opportunity to win at least one knockout stage game. And so I'll be really excited to see, whether that's possible. And so I know there's a lot of polemics and stuff coming, a lot of politics and stuff going around with this tournament. And obviously I, understand, and I think it's very justified, a lot of the controversy surrounded by the fact that we are hosting a World Cup in such a time as this. But, ultimately, there's a lot to be excited about when it comes to the actual football that's going to be played. And so, all we can hope is for a fun and entertaining tournament, and I think we're slated for that. So, yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I guess I'll see you at the World Cup.